Well, hi everyone. Today is day 5 of our 21 days of prayer, and today we're going to be covering prayer number 5. It's titled "Remember Me," the prayer of Hannah. And this is a woman who was barren, who hadn't had children, and wasn't able to have children because the Lord had closed her womb. But you know what? She kept hammering heaven, praying faithfully. And in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, it says, "Now there was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord." Note the lonely, desperate, painful words at the end of verse 2. Peninnah had children, Hannah had none. Hannah had no children in a world in which bearing children served as the chief source of a woman's esteem, provision, and protection. Verse 4, "Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, 'Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?'" See, the Lord had closed her womb. Hannah's barrenness caused her to become a source of scorn. And not only that, but she had a husband who totally misunderstood her pain. Like most men, Elkanah failed to realize that he wasn't the source or the being central to his wife's desires. Out of her desperation, Hannah crafted a prayer, one of the most effective recorded in the Bible. And in verse 10, it says, "In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow, saying, 'O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head.'" Don't miss the urgent simplicity of this prayer. It is summed up in these 2 anguished words: remember me. This desire to have children was not a spur-of-the-moment thing. The passion for parenthood grew daily in the womb of Hannah's soul. Undoubtedly, she probably tried other mothers' suggestions. That's not something new. Women would get together and talk and discuss life and family and home. She was getting older, and her biological clock was running out. She was frantic for some action, some type of answer or response from God. Obviously, this was not the first time she had prayed about her barrenness, but year after year after year, she would hammer heaven, asking God to answer her prayer, asking God for a son. So you see, in Hannah's Israel, the odds of a woman, especially a barren wife, having a national impact were slim. But a son given to God could grow to exercise prophetic power that could help prod a wayward people back to a loving God. And we see this throughout Israel's history. They would love God, serve God, follow God, and then they would slip back in their wayward ways of serving the idols of the nations around them, the pagan idols, which is idolatry is a very pagan thing, and it leads to all kinds of evil that God does not like and has to judge because of the sin. She cried out for a son, and finally, God responded. God responded in his perfect time. Remember, God's time is always perfect. He's always on time. You know, our human flesh, our human desire likes to say, Lord, you know, we're sitting there tapping our finger. You're late. No, God's never late. He's always on time, in his time, because God is sovereign and he knows all things. He was there before the world existed. He's the one who created all things. His word is trustworthy. We've not always been here. We exist inside time and space. God exists outside of it. He is separate from the creation. So he was there before the beginning. He was there in the beginning. So making it personal. Before we look at God's answer, notice a few characteristics of this prayer. These elements could be understood as aids to answered prayers. Pure motives. Come to God with pure motives. That can be hard to do because of the flesh that we live in. You know, even though we're saved, we still deal with sin. We're not going to get away from that until Jesus either comes back or he calls us home. We're still going to have to crucify sin daily and put sin to death daily. So come to God with pure motives. Number 2, persistent faith. It says in verse 12, and she kept on praying to the Lord. Eli observed her mouth. Persistent faith. We got to take that shield of faith up every day, believing God is who he says he is, relying on him. Because remember, God is true. He is the standard of all truthfulness and holiness. He is the source of truth. We have to take God at his word. Number 3, painful earnestness. It's okay to pray painfully, earnestly, groanings. That's okay. It's okay to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But praying painfully is okay. You ever had a time in your life where you've been in some kind of pain or some situation and all you could do was groan or painfully pray? That's okay. Painful earnestness. Verse 13, it says, and Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of great anguish and grief. Number 4, petitions with fasting. Verse 17, Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked him. She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Hannah did not eat until she was assured that she had broken through. Verse 19 through 20, it says, early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah lay with Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. Finally, Hannah got her answer. She finally got the answer from God that she was wanting. God answered her prayer. Remember, in his time. And we know what Samuel will go on to do. He will have a mighty impact on the nation of Israel as God's tool. So remember, God's time is always perfect. So when we're praying and it doesn't seem like anything's happening, keep pounding on heaven's door. Keep praying. Don't give up. Persistent faith. Keep calling out to God, because he will answer in the right time. And tomorrow we will go into prayer number 6, and this is the prayer of David after he had sinned. We will see y'all tomorrow.